What's up YouTube, it's your boy the Ol Drunken Geek, and today I'm gonna return to the segment which I call fanfix, which is like a fan fiction, but it is a fix of an old movie. So I have been doing the ODG fanfixes, the Dceu, and I started with Green Lantern from 2011, and then I did Man of Steel. You can check out those videos, we'll link them down in the description. But I figured if the Green Lantern one would have worked out good, we would have gotten a sequel, which would be Green Lantern Corps. I decided to just make a brand new movie just because, like, let's get crazy. So I really hope you guys like this video, and this will be Green Lantern Corps, a movie that never existed, but would have been cool if it did. I made this little pitch of a movie in a way that it could be a standalone thing. It could be the buddy cop Green Lantern movie that DC has been promising us for forever. And it seems like we're never gonna get it because Aquaman's doing so good and they have, you know, their darling Justice League characters right now that they're working on. But that's okay. At least you got the ODG to guide you through the darkness. So moving on to what this video is really about, which is the Green Lantern Corps. So the movie would open up with a space battle between the Green Lantern Corps, or at least a large number of Green Lanterns, and Mongul, the warlord from DC Comics. You guys might know him from Justice League cartoon. So Mongul is controlling something called War World, which is the Death Star of the DC Comics. It is a giant artificial planet that has weapons and stuff like that. It would be a very cool like aerial battle or like space battle, and it would just go to show that Sinestro is the strongest of all the Green Lanterns, and even though the second strongest Green Lantern is Hal Jordan, he is nowhere near the power levels of Sinestro. It would also go to show the friendship of Sinestro and Hal Jordan. Now this would take place while after the first movie, so like in their timeline of the movies, Hal Jordan has already been on his own. He's already completed his training as a Green Lantern, and this is like his first team up with Sinestro since he, you know, has been on his own. After the battle, Sinestro would take Hal Jordan and show off his planet Kurugar, which he is now kind of ruling. He says he's protecting it, but he's kind of ruling Kurugar, and Kurugar looks really cool. It looks really shiny, really clean, everything, you know, the trains seem to run on time. This would just go to show how Kurugar is a lot like Nazi Germany in the sense that everything was in order. You know, obviously there was a lot of sleazy stuff going on in the background, which we know, but if you were to just see Nazi Germany for all its glory, you would think it was really shiny and cool and stuff like that, and that's how you would show Kurugar. Cut to an introduction of Jon Stewart, an ex-Marine now turned Green Lantern, and he has just basically completed his basic training for the Green Lanterns. And you would show a small scene of the Guardians of the Universe, who are the Owens, an ancient race that created the Green Lanterns and are now running the Green Lantern Corps. So you would just show them talking amongst themselves and showing how it is peculiar that there's a second human that the power battery chose. Now, for those who don't know, the power battery is like the main housing of the green energy that powers all the Green Lantern rings. That's where all the energy is housed. And the power battery actually releases the rings when it wants to choose hosts to join the Green Lantern. When a host dies, also his ring leaves them, or his or her ring leaves them and chooses a new host, but it is all controlled by the power battery. And basically the Guardians would just be discussing how odd it is that two humans from the same sector, let alone the same planet, would be chosen to be Green Lanterns within such close timing, because that doesn't normally happen. So it is said that Jon, since he is a human and the second human to be a Green Lantern, will be teamed up with Hal because they patrol the same sector and they're both humans, so it would make sense that Hal would be the one training him. This is where the buddy cop element of this movie would come in. This, you know, the two cops, one's gonna train the other, kind of training day situation. So when Hal and Jon meet, Hal first takes Jon to a bar within OA. I just think this would be a good moment to display how laid back and kind of careless Hal Jordan is in a way, and how Jon reacts to that, seeing as how he's more of a serious character. So on their first mission, they would go try to take down the smuggler Kanjar Row, which is basically a bootlegger. Hal Jordan would try to make it look like a big thing, and Jon Stewart would be like, is he just a bootlegger? Or like, he's like, no, it's more important than that. But that's basically what they would do. So with them spying on Kanjaro, you would see that two manhunters come and purchase some illicit goods, maybe like a spaceship part, what looks like a spaceship part or some mechanical part from Kanjaro, something that's outlawed, something that's illegal. For those of you who don't know what manhunters are basically these sentient robots that go and hunt men. That's their name suggests, and they basically don't stop until they have killed or captured whoever they have been assigned to. They're kind of like space terminators. Even though they're supposed to take down Kanjaro, Hal Jordan loses it because he's seen a manhunter before and he knows what they are. So he starts following the manhunters, even though Jon is like, wait, shouldn't we just stick to the plan or contact the main Green Lantern hub to see what our orders would be? And Hal Jordan would be like, no. We do things on our own terms, so we're just gonna follow these manhunters. So they start following the manhunters, and the manhunters notice that they're being followed, and they start fighting with Hal and Jon and basically kick their asses, because at this point the manhunters are charged with yellow energy. For those who don't know, yellow energy is more inherently damaging to Green Lanterns than other things. In old comics it used to be anything the color yellow, but that's stupid. If you throw a yellow ball at them, that's gonna hurt them. That's stupid. But so it's become yellow energy that hurts them, and in this movie it would definitely be yellow energy, which these manhunters are charged with. After getting their asses swiftly kicked, Jon and Hal go back to the planet where Kanjaro was. They try to track him down to some bar, and when they're just getting their hands on him, they are attacked by a mysterious armored person who is also wielding weapons with yellow energy. Even though it does hurt Hal and Jon, they are able to subdue the armored assailant and unmask it. It turns out it is Katma Tui. Now, for those who know Green Lantern lore, you know who Katma Tui is. But for those who don't, let's just say she is from the same planet as Sinestro. She's from the planet Kurugar. So while they're questioning Katma Tui reveals to them that Sinestro has basically become Kurugar's Hitler. Even though he is running the planet more orderly, there is no crime, starvation, or things like that. He is oppressing regimes. Anybody who opposes him gets killed, gets put in slave camps and things like that. Sick people are being, disposed of and stuff like that. So he's kind of a bad guy in that sense. He's basically Kurugarian Hitler, and he has turned the Green Lantern symbol into basically the Nazi swastika of Kurugar. Now, Hal Jordan, being the friend of Sinestro, having seen Kurugar for its grandiose side and not its crappy labor camp side, automatically snap. He does not agree with this. He hates the idea. He thinks she's a liar. Basically just doesn't believe her at all. Even though Hal is being a dick about the whole situation, Jon convinces Hal to relax, and he convinces Katma that the Green Lanterns are here to help. Now, Katma is an exiled rebel from Kurugar. Because Sinestro was hunting down anyone who was opposing him, she had to flee her home planet of Kurugar. Through her being outside of Kurugar, she has realized that not all Green Lanterns are evil, that Green Lanterns is like a police force for space. So Jon Stewart is able to convince Katma to take them back to their stronghold, in which there are 10 or 12 Kurugarians that are pissed off that she brung a Green Lantern back to their stronghold. But she explains that they don't have any choice, they need any help they can get. And she reveals to them that there were about 300 of these exiled rebels when they originally started their mission, leaving Kurugar and plotting against Sinestro outside of the planet, and that a Manhunter basically came down and slaughtered most of them. They were able to defeat the Manhunter, but their numbers dwindled to about 10 or 12 people. Furthermore than that, you see a partially dismantled Manhunter with its yellow energy being sucked out, and that is what is charging their yellow energy weapons, which they plan to use on Sinestro, seeing as how he is a Green Lantern. So Hal Jordan expresses that he still doesn't believe it, but their conversation is cut short because one of the Manhunters that they actually fought earlier had been following Hal and Jon back to the lair of the rebels. And he does what Manhunters do, and he hunts men, and he kills most of those rebels except for Katma Tui. So the only ones that are able to get out are Jon, Hal, and Katma Tui. Of course, Hal and Jon, being very skilled fighters, even though Jon's pretty new, he shows a lot of promise. They were able to defeat this one Manhunter, but like I said, most of the rebels are dead. Now back with Katma, who is right now distraught because all of her rebel friends are dead now. She has no one to back her up. Sees that she has no choice but to help Jon and Hal. So she tells them that the Manhunters are holed up in an abandoned space station, just in the middle of space on some random asteroid. They have a space station, and that is probably where they took the part that they got from the smuggler. So Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart go to this abandoned asteroid space station, and they're sneaking around. This, you can put some elements of a buddy cop movie at this point where, they're kind of sneaking around the bad guy's lair situation. Hal Jordan says that he recalls this place because through the Green Lantern ring that used to be Abin Sur's, he tried to kind of watch like the past footage of how Abin Sur was defeated, and the footage looks like it's been cut out, like it's been deleted. But the last inserts of where Abin Sur was looked a lot like the asteroid where they are now. They sneak around the asteroid and around this abandoned space station, which is all dilapidated, and they're able to get like some security footage, in which it just shows a small insert of Abin Sur fighting Sinestro, which raises the first red flags with Hal Jordan. Up to this point, he did not believe Sinestro had anything nefarious in the works. He just thought he was a Green Lantern, and maybe this was a big misunderstanding. And this is the first time where he starts to doubt Sinestro. So obviously, Hal Jordan, having no kind of self-control, starts wilding out and calls the attention of the Manhunters, which are in large numbers. They had a hard time taking down one Manhunter back on that planet with all the rebels. And now there are hundreds of Manhunters in this place, and now they have to like try to fight their way out. They're obviously mostly on the defensive and running away and stuff like that. They do manage to do a little bit of damage to some of the Manhunters, but there's hundreds of them and there's 2 Green Lanterns. So last minute, clutch, Katma Tui comes in one of her starships, shoots some missiles or something to distract the Manhunters, and they're able to get away. So Hal Jordan suggests that they go to somewhere where they'll be safe from Manhunters, which is the planet Mogo. For those of you who do not know Green Lantern lore that well, Mogo is basically a sentient planet. The planet itself has thoughts and feelings and has like a brain. This sentient planet that was just out in space existing, one day got a Green Lantern ring, and the planet itself is a Green Lantern. So this is kind of a safe haven for Green Lanterns. So when Katma, Hal, and Jon get there, they're safe from the Manhunters. And at this point, Jon and Hal have an argument, and Jon is basically telling Hal how he has one of the most powerful weapons in the universe, yet he plays around with it and he's very irresponsible with it, and he doesn't follow any kind of protocol or any kind of order. He just kind of does what he does, kind of like a child. And Hal Jordan's like, why do you have such a stick up your ass? And this is where Jon tells him his backstory. So Jon was basically a Marine, and he was in the middle of a fight. All his Marine buddies in the gunfight that they were involved in, everybody was dead except him. He was like the last one alive. He had just given up hope. At the moment when his last buddy died and he doesn't care anymore, the Green Lantern ring comes to him. He's able to defeat his foes and is whisked away to Oa to become a Green Lantern. So Jon has like a chip on his shoulder because he feels like if he would have had this Green Lantern ring back when his buddies were still alive, if he had just had it maybe 15 minutes earlier, all his buddies would not have died in this gunfight. And he has a chip on his shoulder, and he has a very strong sense of duty. Now that all his buddies are gone, and he is, in his mind, probably suspected to be dead or MIA in the Marines, he can now keep his work, doing the good work, being a hero in the Green Lanterns, and now he can do it at a larger, more efficient way. Upon finding this out, Hal Jordan is very apologetic and stuff like that. Now, obviously everybody's pissed off. Jon's pissed off, Hal's pissed off, Kat Matui's pissed off. They all seem betrayed. They all feel betrayed. So they all go off on their own way, meanwhile, kind of like recharging themselves on Mogo. And Mogo gives them all visions because Mogo can do that. So they all have these kind of spiritual journey visions that they have. So Hal Jordan's vision is basically his ex-girlfriend and childhood friend Carol Ferris back on Earth. They're kissing and they're having a good time. And he looks down and she has like a wound, a bullet wound or a laser wound. She's bleeding and she dies in his arms. And that is like his fear. His fear is getting close to somebody and then being taken away from him. And then it cuts to him as a child watching his father getting on a test plane for Ferris Air. This is a little bit of, Hal Jordan's backstory. His father gets on this test airplane and flies away, and he says goodbye. He'd be like, I'll be fine, Hal, don't worry about me. And as soon as he takes off, the plane explodes and his father dies. And that is basically Mogul trying to show these people how to face their fears. His fear is caring for people, caring at all. Hal Jordan has this attitude of, I don't care about anything, whatever. But that is because his deepest rooted, most rooted fear is caring for people. Mogul brings this to light in order for him to overcome his fear, his deepest, darkest fear. For those who don't know, Green Lanterns are picked because they can overcome fear. They have a strong willpower. The green energy that they wield is the energy of willpower, and being able to overcome fear is one of the parameters that you need to meet, or the most important parameter that you need to meet in order to be a Green Lantern. Similarly, Jon Stewart has another vision. He has faced this fear. All his friends are dead. So he is back in the shootout where he is there by himself. And again, this imaginary world gives way, and he sees himself in space surrounded by a bunch of dead Green Lanterns. So that is his new fear, and he has to face it, and he's already faced it. So his fear is kind of, in a way, easier to overcome. Lastly, Katma Tui also has a vision quest. Even though she is not a Green Lantern, she still has a vision, and she sees Sinestro presiding over an enslaved Korugar, which is very dark and bleak, and she shoots him, and Sinestro automatically dies. But his Green Lantern ring leaves him and comes to her, and she becomes a Green Lantern. So her fear is, once she dethrones Sinestro, she does not want to become a dictator or, take control of Korugar. And that's her fear, a fear that, is very deeply rooted. This is a fear of herself in a way. So after their vision quests, they come back together, with the sense of being made better for the vision quest. And now they are ready and recharged to go solve this problem. Also, they've been trying to communicate with Oa this whole time, but out in space, their signal is being blocked by something. Hal's plan is to go straight to Korugar and face Sinestro. He feels like that is the best way to stop what he might be planning. So Hal, Jon, and Katma go to Korugar, where they split up. Katma goes and tries to see if she can find any of her remaining rebel friends in Korugar, see if they can help in some kind of way. So Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart go to confront Sinestro and see what's going on. They go see him at like the Imperial Palace or whatever that Sinestro showed Hal earlier. And when they find him there, they find him in front of some giant black box. Sinestro starts doing his villain thing. He's gonna spill the beans on what his plan is. But before that, he opens the giant box, and in there is the yellow element, which is basically the kind of like the green power battery for the Green Lanterns. Yellow element would be the equivalent for the yellow energy. And you show Sinestro quickly charging his Green Lantern ring with the yellow energy and changing color. Even his costume changes to a darker almost black color, and he's now charged with yellow energy. So Jon and Hal, they barely get a chance to say two words, and Sinestro just kicks their asses and puts them in shackles. And that's when he starts doing his villain thing and explaining what's been going on. So apparently, the Manhunters that we've been seeing this whole movie were originally created by the Guardians of the Universe, and they were powered by this yellow energy. So they were kind of like the first Green Lantern Corps, in the sense that, they were the ones who kept peace. They're robots, so they unbiased by feelings and stuff like that. And they started being too violent and too dogmatic for the Guardians of the Universe. So the Guardians started decommissioning them. A small sect of Manhunters stole the yellow element and hid it somewhere in space. Eventually, though, the Guardians were able to capture all the Manhunters and imprison them in a prison of Quard, which I will not go into detail, but Green Lantern fans know what I'm talking about. So the yellow element was lost to history for centuries. Eventually, Sinestro came upon it and devised a plan to bring back the Manhunters, because Sinestro's main thing is he believes in order, and he believes that the Guardians are doing a poor job with the Green Lanterns and that he should take over instead of the Guardians and bring the same peace and prosperity that he has brought to Korugar to the universe at large. Unfortunately, we know what his idea of peace is. He would destroy anyone who stands against him. Sinestro is also mad that so many things were kept from the Green Lanterns, like the existence of Manhunters, and he feels like at any moment the Guardians could change their mind and dismantle the Green Lanterns. So he wants to take control because he feels like he can do it better. Abensur eventually discovered that Sinestro discovered the yellow energy, and he went to confront him on the abandoned asteroid where the Manhunters were holed up. He went to question him, and Sinestro basically fought him And Sinestro is the one who actually used his green energy to delete the history on his ring of the fight. But they were both mortally wounded. And that is when Sinestro set one of the Manhunters to finish off Abin-Sur. So that is how Abin-Sur was defeated and mortally wounded. And that is kind of bringing everything back to the beginning of the origin of Hal Jordan. So by Sinestro discovering the yellow energy and discovering the origin of the Manhunters, he decided he would free the remaining Manhunters and build himself his own army to overthrow the Green Lanterns. The only reason he's keeping Jon Stewart alive is for the sake of Hal Jordan, and the only reason he's keeping Hal Jordan alive is because he feels like he can eventually change his mind, because he does consider Hal Jordan a friend of sorts, and he feels like he will eventually need the Green Lanterns to be his army and carry out his will across the universe, and he knows that he will need good soldiers. So he feels like at some point he will be able to change Hal Jordan's mind, and so he keeps him imprisoned in his palace while he goes off to his plans. So Sinestro goes off and he goes back to the site where Mongul is being held, the warlord from the beginning of the movie, and his forces are being held on their planet. And he kind of sneaks in and just frees them and causes a big ruckus. And also calls the code red so that all Green Lanterns respond to this seeming emergency, even though it is Sinestro the one who orchestrated it. At the same time, he takes that part that the smuggler earlier gave the Manhunters, and he takes it to Warworld, which at this point has been dismantled and its engine has been taken off so that it can no longer be used as a weapon. So he goes inside, and this part that they got from the smuggler is like an adapter. So he puts that inside Warworld and starts powering Warworld with the yellow element. So it's kind of like a converter type deal. It's kind of a bit of a MacGuffin at this point. It was just something to move the story along, but also it does serve a purpose. So now he has Warworld, which is powered by yellow energy. He has all the Green Lanterns responding to what seems like Mongul being freed and, starting his campaign again. And he takes Warworld and the Manhunters and attacks the home planet of Oa, which is not as well guarded as it would be because all Green Lanterns are responding to the Mongol situation. Meanwhile, back in Korugar, Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart are riding away in a prison, and Hal Jordan finally embraces the fact that he has not been the most responsible with the power that he's been giving, the power of the Green Lantern. He's finally embracing all that Jon Stewart says, and they have a tender, beautiful moment, I guess, that all buddy cop comedies have. At this point, though, Kat Matui was able to get some insurgents together. Apparently, there was still some sects of people rebelling against Sinestro just in the underground. She was able to convince them to storm the castle now that Sinestro's out. There's gunfight and stuff like that. And she is able to free Hal and Jon, and they are finally able to send a signal to Oa warning them that Sinestro's coming. So basically the third act of this movie would be a fight between the Manhunters and the remaining Green Lanterns within Oa, and Jon and Hal making their way back to Oa and fighting Sinestro one last time. Now, Sinestro has the added advantage that he has a Warworld with him, but one thing that he didn't account for was that now Mogo is in the game, because Mogo had been dormant for several decades. He'd been like a place where Green Lanterns go and kind of get their bearings again, but he had not seen action, and now you see Mogo coming in clutch at the very end during this giant fight between Green Lanterns and Manhunters, which Green Lanterns are mostly getting their asses kicked, and you see Mogo show up and kind of fight Warworld. It's like two planets fighting each other next to a larger planet. I think it would just be a cool visual to have in a movie. Eventually, it ends up being Sinestro trying to take the power battery, and he's in front of the power battery trying to take it back in Oa, the Green Lantern power battery. And Hal and Jon basically team up and jump him. They basically fight him, they just jump him, two on one. Because neither of them, to be honest, are strong enough to take down Sinestro on their own. They're fighting Sinestro, and Sinestro is amazed. Now that Jon and Hal have mastered or, completely tamed their innermost fears at the moment, they have become stronger. So the yellow energy that Sinestro is wielding is not causing as much damage as it normally would. So, this would just basically be action for action's sake, because, it's a superhero movie and this is the kind of stuff you need. Eventually, though, Hal and Jon get the better of Sinestro, and Hal is able to punch him right into the power battery, where it is said that Sinestro, he can't handle that much energy and he dies because he's inside. You know, he was trying to control the energy from the outside of the battery, but being thrown inside, it is said that now his body could not be able to handle it and he has been destroyed, which, I mean, come on now. It's a comic book film, so you know that's not the truth. But that'd be a nice way to button up the movie. And, yeah, that would be pretty much the end of the movie. You know, you get a little bit of resolution. Hal Jordan has now become the best Green Lantern because, you know, he solved this case. And Jon Stewart, along with him, this is his first mission as a Green Lantern. And he is like the most valuable rookie ever. You know, you have a bit of a discussion at the end with the Guardians of the Universe discussing how much of a wild card humans are as Green Lanterns. However, the two humans have saved the Green Lantern Corps as a whole. Our two heroes have become better for it. At the ending, in addition to everything, you would see a new bunch of rings leave the power battery. Because obviously many Green Lantern died in the battle with the Manhunters. Obviously the Manhunters are also defeated now that they lost their leader and stuff like that. And many rings have now left the Lantern to find new hosts. And one of these Green Lantern rings attaches itself to Kat Matui, who will now be a Green Lantern because that's where I got the character from. She is a Green Lantern for those who didn't already guess it. So yeah, that's pretty much all I got. That's the movie Green Lantern Corps. So I hope you guys liked that video. Put a lot of work and love into it. And if you liked it, go ahead and drop a like. Comment if you have something to say, something I could have changed about the video. Share, subscribe, turn on the notification, all that good stuff. I know it's somewhere down here. Also check us out on Instagram, Ol Drunken Geek, dropping loads. Check out some of our other shows that we have on this channel. ODG out.